Welcome back to Silk Threads, where we explore the intersections of creativity, heritage, and innovation with extraordinary change makers from around the world. I'm your host, Nail, and today's episode takes us on a journey through Pakistan.
Thank you, Niall, for inviting us back to the SSTV studio. And it's a pleasure to be here today with some of my colleagues. Today we have our guests that are shaping the future of heritage, business, and public policy. So without further ado, I would like to welcome one of the leaders of business, heritage, and conservation in Pakistan, Zehra Shalwani. She is a dynamic cultural heritage expert, and she has business ventures that are leading change in her community. She's the founder and entrepreneur of Dastan Tours Private Limited, and she has been specializing in sustainable tourism and cultural heritage preservation. She's also qualified with Master of Science in Tourism, Environment and Development from King's College London, and using that knowledge now, applying it in her community to curate ecotourism experiences and crafting heritage initiatives that promote harmony, interfaith dialogue, and community empowerment. Zehra has also won awards, international awards. She's won the International Youth Forum Award for showcasing Karachi's culinary heritage, and she's also presenting her work at the Global Encounters Festival in Dubai this year. So she is one of the highly esteemed, highly distinguished young leaders in Pakistan and also in South Asia.
Welcome to Karachi and welcome to a bite of my city. A city where food is not just a sense of nourishment. It connects people across time, creates bond amongst people. Each dish tells a story which spans across centuries. Centuries of history, centuries of cultural identity, and centuries of actual bonding amongst people. Welcome. Khush Aamdeed, Bhali Kare Aaya in Karachi.
Getting our day started with the karak chai, caffeinated. To the spicy heat of golgappas. Each bite reminds us of how food here unites us. From grilled kebabs to chicken tikka, with a burst of flavors at Buns Road. The succulent tenderness takes you to a time travel. Add-on of ancient Silk Route, momos in our everyday diet. The Fisherfolk community of Old Town Kolachi serves excellent seafood delights. No meal is complete without desserts. Whether it's the golden crunch of jalebi or the rich creamy faluda, offer a sweet embrace after a bold and spicy feast.
So welcome, Zehra.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
One of the questions I would like to ask you is, how are you making an impact in your community?
So, the first thing that we do is we engage local communities, we engage local stakeholders in whatever programs we do. Because we strongly believe in a bottom-to-up development approach that I got to study as a development studies student in my undergraduate studies as well, and that is something that I kept building on to it when I did my postgraduate studies. So what we do is we really, sit with local communities and have multiple conversations with them as to what they aspire to, do in order to improve their quality of lives. And cultural heritage is one component that we specifically look on because we strongly believe in the power of cultural heritage as a means, as a tool to not just advocate for sustainable development, but also to learn from where we come from, right? Like what are our roots? What's our civilization history has been like? And what can we learn from, the rich civilization history that has existed in Pakistan since the past 10,000 years. So, it's not just about reduction of poverty and creation of new jobs, but it's also about learning from our past, building onto it, preserving it as a historical memory. And now, especially with the advent of digital technologies like AI, virtual reality, and digital preservation, applying those tools to actually protect and preserve and promote our heritage sites, both tangible as well as intangible, which are in the brink of decay because of environmental pollution, because of climate change, because of floods and disasters that we are prone to as a country. So it's very important that we not just ground ourselves in our past, but we also learn from it. We use it as a tool to advocate for sustainable development goals, but we also use the latest advanced technologies, especially digital technologies, to not only promote it as a destination and to bring in tourist influx and to earn from it, but also preserve and protect it digitally for the generations to come, so that they also have a memory of how rich our ancestral linkages have been like. Yeah.
Shall we rewind the clock just a little and talk about what was the most unforgettable experience during your time with the International Youth Forum IYF, and what advice would you give to future IYF leaders?
I think one of the most unforgettable memories has been the fact that we were young leaders from such diverse contexts and experiences and academic and professional portfolios, and the fact that we were all united under one umbrella of protecting our cultural heritage sites, because the ancient Silk Route was such that it brought people together, not just in terms of cultural heritage, but also in terms of trade and commerce, right? So it was a beautiful intersectionality of not just the theme itself, but also young people coming in together under one portfolio, under one theme, who are all equally committed to this cause, and people coming in from such diverse contexts from all across Asia was, I think, one of the most unforgettable memories that I still cherish. And I also feel that China itself is doing so much to protect its sites that it's commendable, and we need to learn from what they are doing in terms of best practices. So I feel it was a very very well organized ground for young people to come and share and learn from each other. And even though it's been, I think, more than 8 months now, but we're still connected on social media. We see each other's work. We get to learn from each other's work. We seek inspiration from one another. And then, obviously there are more programs coming up. So, you can get a chance to meet these alumni in the programs, coming this year as well. So I think this is something that I would advise people who are passionate about cultural heritage. It's okay if you don't really have an established career in the field yet, but even if you're passionate about it, you read about it, you write about it, you feel about it, you should definitely apply to such platforms. Because even if you are super young, even if you are still a student, it's okay, because age is just a number at the end of the day. It's your passion and the way you advocate for the preservation of cultural heritage that brings you all together. And you should apply regardless of what age bracket you're in. Yeah, as far as you fall in the youth age group, whether you are a student or a professional, you definitely need to utilize these platforms to learn and grow, because you also grow as a person when you experience such events. Yeah.
Yeah. You have mentioned how different countries preserve their culture using the modern technology as well. For example, China. You have mentioned how they do it. We see museums with different methods. Not only just they are keeping a statue or an artifact, they have information boards, videos, and they also now use artificial intelligence as well. How do you think you can use those technologies or methods to promote the area of interest of your field?
So I think the opportunity that I see in AI and VR is that these digital technologies are not place bound, right? So for example, if you create something and you use a digital medium, you can reach more audiences, irrespective of the fact that if you're able to physically travel to the country or not. So I see a lot of potential, and I think this sector is also growing. So I'm also equally excited to see what sort of opportunities lie in this sector, which is why I'm also traveling this year to Dubai, because I really want to understand how countries are leveraging digital technologies to bridge these gaps. Because I feel in Pakistan we still have a long way to go, because we're still taking sorry, there are still a lot of archaeological sites being explored and dug up, and um, all of those artifacts are marked and being preserved, and a lot of local museums are being built up all across Pakistan. But the thing is that tourism is a provincial matter in our country. So provinces, as in the small states within the country, they get to decide what they want to do with their archaeological diggings. So yes, we do have a federal body that governs it all, but I feel that the process has just begun. It's not as advanced or as nuanced as how China has done it. So I feel that we still have a long, long way to go. And digitization is something that we would have to catch up on, because it's not really, I mean, we have just begun exploring it as a medium in our museum sector. But I'm hopeful that with the years to come, with cross-country collaborations, and with these digital technologies becoming more and more accessible and cheaper, thanks to the manufacturing genius that China promises to the world. When you get accessibility, when you have more trained people in the field, then I'm sure that you know this would gain a momentum in our context as well. But yes, there is focus on digitization now. Previously, if I talk like 10, 15 years ago, there were hardly any museums of quality, let alone digitization, right? But at least now there is a concentrated effort by all federal and provincial agencies that we need to preserve and protect and build more and more museums now. And we need more community centers as well that act as a locus for these cultural dialogues, that act as a locus for people to come together. So a lot of community spaces are also, springing up across the country, um, including cultural spaces as well, uh, in which museums is just one part of it, right? So I'm hopeful that with the years to come, we will experience massive digitization as well, for sure, because it's inevitable. It's meant to happen. Because a lot of our heritage sites are actually in nature, and they need to be protected either physically or digitally. And the opportunity that digitization gives us is that even if a site is affected, physically due to any disaster whatsoever, you can always, use the digital footprint of your site to build it back. That is something that was not present before, and this is an opportunity that digital technology, promises us, and it's a huge opportunity, especially for students as well, because previously you would have to travel to the site itself to understand it, in terms of how archaeology is done, right? And it was physically draining. It was expensive because takings, especially during summer months, like the months that we're experiencing right now, with 50 degrees Celsius and above, it is a challenge, right? So only nuanced, experienced archaeologists can do it. Obviously, we have a team from Pakistan who assist them, and they are mostly led by foreign missions, like renowned US archaeologists and renowned Italian archaeologists. But still, if you want to build more momentum, you would have to use, the digital footprint of the site, especially when you want to speed up the process of learning and developing more technicians as well in this field. So, the digital copy really gives you that opportunity to train more and more people while saving cost as well. So, yeah, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, Zara, thank you so much for that extensive answer. I wanted to just highlight that the Maldives and Pakistan, I think, are very similar in many regards, even though there are some differences. But since independence, Pakistan and Maldives, we've maintained friendly relations. We've had collaboration in sectors like banking, in now in heritage and culture as well, and we are having cross-country collaborations as well. This all comes together, especially in international forums like the International Youth Forum, where we exchanged ideas. And it's very interesting that you've also highlighted the challenges locally in your community. But I think we have a lot we can learn in the Maldives as well, with the provincial government system in Pakistan, where there are larger and more concrete rights and responsibilities for the local provincial government and local government to take up the mantle of preservation and conservation, as you have highlighted very well. And in terms of catching up digitization and also using new technologies such as artificial intelligence, LiDAR, 3D mapping, these kind of technologies are newer to us more developing countries. But as you also have highlighted, during our visit and during our program, we were able to see the cities of Nanjing and Changsha, as well as the Chinese development and Chinese use of the innovative technologies to map out copies, 3D copies, and to store this and use this data for efforts such as restoration, as you also have highlighted, as well as make it more accessible to people all over the world. There are virtual tours that are available, and these are really areas where young people today, with with our smartphones, that we can sometimes use for exploring and also highlighting what is available around our communities, as you have also very eloquently put. And this is an area, since we are trying to catch up with the world at large, that I see a lot of potential for collaboration at the community level and also at the regional level for youth of South Asia to come together. And for the final question, we would really like to ask you, since IYF, I know you've been keeping very busy. I'm sure you've done quite a lot, and I've been following you, of course, on socials, and as well as interviews that you have done. And I've seen a lot of impact that you have made. So I just want to ask you, what do you believe young people need to become more successful? And what have you been doing in your journey since IYF to amplify your impact and to give back more to the community? You've already mentioned that you're traveling to Dubai for a very prestigious gathering. Can you highlight a little bit more about how you are managing to give back?
In Pakistan, it's a very competitive process because we receive more than 400 to 500 applications each year, and only 50 students are accepted in the program. So, and we do it once a year with a different theme and with a different part of Pakistan that we capture. And I'm really glad that when I returned from China, a couple of graduates came up because they wanted to do some, cultural heritage awareness programs with for example, in their universities. Some of them involved us in, the students' network that they have created. So, during the last 8 holidays, they engaged us as speakers to speak on, to do these activities using colors and art form to promote awareness on, the rich cultural heritage that we have. Similarly, one of our graduates, he started off with his own startup, which is now registered with the government of Pakistan. And it's actually called the Heritage Discovery Tour because he got so inspired by the young youth program that he was a part of that he initiated his own startup as well out of it. So this is, I think, a success story which is highly commendable because this is the kind of secondary and tertiary leadership that you aim to create while you are working, right? Because your work should continue. It should seek to inspire young people so that they are also able to, join you in this momentum. So I'm really glad that startups have come out of it. Young people have taken up programs, especially during Eid holidays, to inspire these student networks that we have here in Pakistan. Similarly, a lot of young people from northern areas, especially, they are in my city and they may come to other major cities of Pakistan as well for their educational purposes. And now that they are returning, especially in June and July for their summer holidays, they're not only digitally capturing the local embroidery that their local women do in their rural communities, but they're also, having conversations with the elders of the community to capture oral histories. They're also trying to understand how to preserve and promote their local ecology. So they are also capturing the kind of trees that are planted in their areas and how they can, increase the forest cover of their locality so that, these communities, which are extremely vulnerable to climate change, are not affected by these avalanche and, the glacier outbursts that we often face in our northern region. Uh, Obviously because of global warming and the negative impact of climate change overall. So the point is that yes, we have been doing heritage programs for young people, but the point is that the learnings that they take from these programs and the way they apply it in their context is remarkable because they are so creative in their ventures and they're so committed and dedicated. Like some of them are also capturing their local language because one of our graduates told us that only 3,000 people are left who speak, a certain language, right? And it's also very interesting because Upper Hunza has an endangered language known as Wakhi. And that is, the region that touches the border with China. Like there is trade and exchange of people happening from that border region as well. So as part of our heritage camp, we went all the way there as well to understand how there are similarities between that part, the Xinjiang part of China, and our own Upper Hunza region in Gilgit-Baltistan. So it's just extremely fascinating, right? That there are endangered languages that they are trying to preserve and promote through music, through poetry, through oral histories, through community engagement. It's marvelous, but I feel that we still have a long way to go. Why? Because it's very unstructured. So I really wish that our institutions and our governments and our private sectors and our civil society and our museum sector somehow bridges this gap so that the work continues, the work gets preserved, and these young people are kept engaged through and through. Regarding your second component of young people, how can they become a part of this process and how can they become successful is that just like having an entrepreneurial mindset, just be ready to pivot. For example, if you go and pitch an idea to a museum and they are not really interested, your idea should not die there, right? Because even if a certain institution is not really listening to you, does not mean that your idea is not fit for some other, institution. So keep pitching, keep pivoting. That is how you become successful, right? Because you have to keep pivoting and you have to speak the language that the local, institution or people understand. If you use extremely technical jargons, for example, especially with the digital technologies that we do, a lot of people, a lot of these elder people who are not really aware of these technologies, they get very scared because they don't understand this technical jargon. So, keeping it very simple and making them understand why it's important is also equally important. So pivoting, pitching, speaking the right language to the right audience is, I think, the key. Last but not the least, your question on achieving this award. So I did not intend to apply for this award myself, but I think what really matters is that when you do good work, make sure that you use digital platforms to promote your work in online spaces. Because what that does is that you gain recognition from institutions, and they keep a track on your activities, and then they reach out to you and they encourage you to apply for these awards. So in my case, some representatives from the British Council Pakistan, they knew our work. We are part of the alumni community as well, and then they encouraged us to apply for this award. So it's very important that once you return from a certain program, and this is an advice to young people, please don't just say goodbye to your colleagues and your mentors and the nice, wonderful people you meet on your journey. Keep in touch with them. Be in contact with them, and also be a part of their alumni networks, because it really helps you. It helps you grow as a person. So I plan on using the award money that I won to, upskill myself in terms of project management, so that once I have a PMP certification with me, I can then be able to manage, good national projects or even international projects that work on, the preservation and protection of cultural heritage sites. And this is, a vision I have with me, that I really want to work on, creating such projects which really, really create good livelihood for young people. And it uses the creativity and innovative thought process of young people to be able to bring heritage sites, speak to all ages, because a lot of young people, especially Gen Z, they find heritage boring. So we have to make this heritage translatable to them. We have to make it interesting for them. And that can only happen when you engage these young people, engage Gen Z, and create opportunities and take them, in designing projects, in designing interventions, in designing, technological, tools to really make it interesting and engaging for them, just like we did, right, when we were in China. Because when you make it interesting for them, they are bound to engage with the sites itself. So in that way, it does not get too boring for them. I hope that makes sense.
This has been such a powerful conversation, right, Nile?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would like to really thank you for sharing your insights, Zahra. And
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. It would be lovely to have you again as well. This is a new, venture that we are also trying to see how we can digitize and document the experiences of young people. And this incredible journey that you have shared with us is amazing. And to our listeners, I hope you stay inspired. And the audience watching us at home, I hope you stay connected. And remember, the threads of heritage are strongest when we are woven together by young people. So until next time, this is Silk Threads. I'd like to also thank our partners, and thank you everyone.